Hey there guys, welcome to Unveiling Wild. In today's video, we'll be presenting you our list of the top 10 ancient creatures that are still alive. Let's get started right away. Creatures like mastodons, giant ground sloths, saber-toothed tigers, and even sinister wolves have sadly gone extinct since the last ice age ended about 11,700 years ago. But that doesn't mean you're out of luck in seeing prehistoric animals today. There are still plenty of wildlife species that predate recorded history. Number 10. Gharial. All crocodiles, caiman, and alligators are age-old species and they look the part. But one species of crocodilian, the gharial, sometimes called the gavial, surpasses them all. Gharials have long, narrow, sword-like mouths full of buzzy teeth. Males develop a huge bulbous nose at the end of their snout, making them look rather funny. Gharials, in some form or another, have been around for tens of millions of years, but the modern gharial is the last remaining species of this ancestry. Unfortunately, it's heading towards its demise, with fewer than 200 individual reproducing gharials left in the wilds of India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. The IUCN has listed it as a critically endangered species. Fortunately, the Kukral Breeding Center at Kukral Forest Reserve in Lucknow, India, has been playing a massive role in gharial conservation efforts by breeding the creatures and sending them out to zoos all over the world. The center is also open to the public, so you can get up close and personal with these dazzling beasts. Small populations are also present at Chitwan National Park and Bardia National Park in Nepal. Number 9. Komodo Dragon. You can find Komodo dragons in Indonesia today, but that might not be where these iconic lizards came from originally. Scientists recently unearthed a series of Komodo dragon fossils in eastern Australia dating back as far as 4 million years ago. These gigantic lizards weigh as much or more than a human, and they have been known to attack humans, which is not ideal since these giant reptiles are somewhat venomous. However, if you're still feeling brave, you can see Komodo dragons by booking with one of several outfitters leading excursions to Komodo National Park. Number 8. Bactrian Camel. Did you know that the one-humped camels, which were used as a mode of transportation in the Middle East before automobiles existed, evolved from the two-humped Bactrian camel, which still roams the wilds of the Gobi Desert in Mongolia? Bactrian camels, which sort of looks like a cross between Chewbacca and a llama, evolved to withstand temperatures below 0 degree Fahrenheit and above 100 degree Fahrenheit some 2 million years ago. Its two humps are used to store fat, which the camel breaks down into energy and water to sustain it during long, dry, food-free periods. If only we could lose that fat that easily too. Bactrian camels are critically risked in the world, with fewer than 1,000 left, according to the IUCN. However, trained Bactrian camels are an important part of the Mongolian culture, and numerous tour operators offer camel riding expeditions. Number 7. Echidna. Echidnas are amazing bizarre creatures that look like a cross between a badger, a porcupine, and an anteater. They're a monotreme, which is a type of primitive animal that lays eggs instead of giving birth to live babies. These animals can also be hard to find in the wild since they're small, mostly nocturnal, and live in a spaced out and isolated life. Several pieces of echidna are also highly endangered, which is a sad fact considering that these animals have been roaming the earth for an estimated 17 or so million years. If you want to see a live echidna up close, that can be found at the Bunurong Wildlife Sanctuary in Hobart, Tasmania, the Australia Zoo in Queensland, and the Taronga Zoo in Sydney. Number 6. Chambered Nautilus. The chambered nautilus normally lives in the deep ocean around Australia and Indonesia. These alien-looking corkscrew-shaped animals are among the oldest in the world. Fossils of this animal have been found 500 million years ago, and they still look the same as today's offspring. They're difficult to breed in confinement, and due to declining populations in the wild, the Monterey Bay Aquarium is at the forefront of research efforts. In fact, in spring 2018, researchers successfully bred some of the first baby nautiluses in captivity. Number 5. Wobbegong Shark. If you're not looking carefully while on a tropical Pacific reef dive, you might miss seeing a wobbegong shark. These creatures are specifically trying to hide from you, using their flattened bodies, frilly edges, and camouflage patterns to blend in with the algae-covered rock. But once they start swimming and you see their smooth white bellies, the jig is up. there's no mistaking a swimming wobbegong. These sharks, which have been around since the Miocene epoch some 11 million years ago, are still found in a couple of different species, and most are too small to harm people. A few wobbegong shark attacks have been reported, but there have been no fatalities, and it's likely that the injured parties just accidentally stepped on them or got too close while diving. You might be lucky and spot these animals while on a reef dive, just don't get too close. You might be lucky and spot these animals while on a reef dive, just don't get too close. If not, you can check them out at the Sydney Aquarium in Australia, where you can go on a guided shark swim even if you have no previous diving experience. Number 4. Horseshoe crab. Horseshoe crabs are one of the oldest species on the earth, having been around in more or less the same form since the Ordovician period, some 445 million years ago. Back in those days, the continent still hadn't formed yet. There was one single supercontinent called Gondwanaland, and horseshoe crabs can be found in abundance around its shores even then. Today, you can find millions of horseshoe crabs in Delaware Bay each May as the clunky helmet-shaped creatures return to the beaches to breed. It's the single largest concentration of horseshoe crabs in the world. While you're there, keep an eye out for rarely seen shoebirds like the red knot and ruddy turnstone, which make a deliberate beeline here during their annual northward migration to feast on the abundance of horseshoe crab eggs. Number 3. Whale shark. The name whale shark is a bit misleading. This animal is not a whale at all. In fact, it's the largest shark, the largest fish even, in the world. What's more, it's been swimming around the ocean for at least 28 million years now. These gigantic sharks can be found all close to the equator, but seeing them isn't as simple as that pervasiveness suggests. First, you have to rent a boat. And since these animals are endangered, finding them even while out in the water is a tall order. A better option is to visit the Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta. It's home to some of the world's only captive whale sharks, and you can even swim with them for a fee. Number 2. Okapi. The fossil record is a bit spotty for the okapi, so information is sparse, but one thing scientists can all agree on is that these animals are very old, perhaps even the oldest mammals left on Earth. They're also very weird looking, resembling a cross between a deer, a zebra, and a giraffe, and in fact, they're the only living relative of the latter. Okapi developed to live relatively isolated lives in the jungle, where a long neck might be caught in the dense trees. In fact, they're so secretive that Western scientists didn't even know they existed until 1900. Up until relatively recently, it was possible to see okapi in the wild at the Okapi Wildlife Reserve in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But due to a spate of deadly attacks, that's not exactly recommended at the moment. Instead, you can see them in a wide range of zoos around the world that the Okapi Wildlife Reserve has partnered with. Number 1. Sandhill crane. These tall, beautiful birds have long legs that stick far out behind them when they fly, making their profile resemble a pointy-tailed dragon when overhead. And while they're common and not often seen as ancient birds, they actually are the oldest fossil sandhill crane, which is at least 2.5 million years old. Each spring, sandhill cranes migrate en masse to their frozen breeding grounds, and Kearney, Nebraska is one of their biggest stopover points. Over 500,000 birds will gather here at one time and fatten up in the cornfields for a long journey ahead. Then, according to some unknown and mysterious signal, the birds will seemingly all depart at once. It's one of the greatest shows in the entire wildlife world. This brings us to the end of our video. So what do you guys think? Do let us know everything in the comments section below. And lastly, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well. With that being said, take care and goodbye.